In every age, people have asked the same questions. What is the good life? How should we treat one another? What does it mean to be free or virtuous or just? What does it mean to be human? Western Moral Philosophy for Beginners and Selenius Media takes you on a guided journey through the minds that shaped the moral backbone of the West, from the earliest Greek thinkers to the modern age. Lived stories of struggle, ambition, conflict, revelation, all unfolding against the sweep of history. If you've ever wanted to understand philosophy clearly, calmly, and humanly, if you want to know not just what these thinkers argued, but why it mattered, follow Western Moral Philosophy for Beginners today and explore 10 more podcasts at Selenius Media. Anaximander, who lived around 610 to 546 BCE, was a pre-Socratic philosopher from the ancient city of Miletus in what is now Turkey. He holds a significant place in early Western philosophy, not only for his contributions to metaphysics and cosmology, but also for the foundations he laid for moral philosophy. As we delve into Anaximander's ideas, we'll explore his central works, the moral concepts he proposed, and how his thoughts resonate with modern issues in ethics and beyond. One of the key works attributed to Anaximander is the On Nature, though unfortunately, only fragments remain. Nevertheless, Anaximander's philosophical inquiries provide a glimpse into his thinking, particularly regarding the concept of the apeiron, which translates to the infinite, boundless, or indeterminate. Central to his philosophy is the idea that the apeiron is the originating principle of all that exists. This fundamental notion is significant not just in the realm of metaphysics, but also in moral philosophy, as it invites questions about the nature of existence, the implications of infinity, and the relationships between beings and their universe. In moral terms, the most profound idea stemming from Anaximander is the notion of justice or fairness, which he articulates through the concept of balance. He suggests that all things partake in a cycle of existence, where they are born from one another and ultimately return to their source. This cyclical process indicates a kind of moral equilibrium, a natural order where every action has consequences that uphold a form of justice. To unpack this further, let's consider one of Anaximander's key arguments regarding the nature of existence and its moral implications. He posits that the universe functions under a principle akin to balance, where opposites exist in tension and harmony. For instance, day and night, hot and cold, or life and death, each embody contradictions that together contribute to the cosmos's overall integrity. In moral philosophy, this implies that human actions, too, should strive for a balance and consider the consequences they hold not only for the individual, but also for the collective. Take a modern political scenario as an application of Anaximander's idea of balance. Consider environmental ethics in contemporary politics. The choices made by governments regarding industrialization versus environmental preservation reflect the need for balance. Decisions that lean too heavily towards either growth without regard to ecological impact or extreme conservation that stifles human development may serve the immediate needs of one side, but ultimately disrupt the larger natural order. Anaximander's focus on fairness suggests that sustainable solutions must account for the needs of future generations, thereby aligning with his ethical framework that values harmony over conflict. Another compelling aspect of Anaximander's philosophy emerges in his thoughts about the nature of human beings in relation to the cosmos. He suggests that humans must live in accordance with the natural laws that govern the universe, which brings the ethical consideration of what it means to be just or unjust, not solely in terms of human interaction, but in alignment with the wider universe. This perspective can apply widely in sectors such as medicine and technology. Consider the field of medical ethics, particularly in cases involving artificial intelligence in healthcare. Anaximander's philosophy highlights the importance of the greater good and the interconnectedness of all beings. In healthcare, the deployment of AI-driven technologies raises ethical questions about access and equity. If AI systems favor certain populations over others, are we respecting the cosmic balance that Anaximander emphasizes? His ideas prompt us to reflect on how advancements should not only serve immediate medical needs, but also consider long-term impacts on society and the very fabric of human existence. Engaging with these ideas then leads us to consider critiques of Anaximander's notions. One criticism centers around the ambiguity of the apeiron. What does it truly mean to assert that the origins of all things lie in an indefinite source? While the idea invites exploration, it can also leave us with questions about determinism and order. Later philosophers like Plato and Aristotle would lend their voices to this conversation, scrutinizing and expanding upon the pre-Socratic ideas to establish more concrete frameworks in metaphysics and morality. Aristotle, for example, offers a more definitive account of causality and existence that contrasts with Anaximander's vaguer notions. While Anaximander introduces an undefined infinite as the source of reality, Aristotle's contributions center around specific causes and principles underlying existence. He grounds ethics in the systematic pursuit of the good life through virtue. However, it's essential to regard that Aristotle's work diversified the discourse established by earlier thinkers. Anaximander's emphasis on cyclical balance can be seen as a precursor to Aristotle's virtue ethics, which demands balance, moderation, and the aim of a meaningful life as key tenets. Yet there is also an intriguing connection to contemporary discourse about morality, especially as it pertains to artificial intelligence and technology. The principles surrounding autonomy, justice, and interconnectedness that Anaximander embodies resonate deeply within modern debates on technology's ethics. For instance, technological advancements must not be evaluated solely based on their immediate benefits, but also on their long-term implications for humanity. In this way, Anaximander's approach encourages a reflective consideration of justice that extends beyond human interactions into the technological realm. As we rethink these philosophical inquiries of Anaximander, it's crucial for us to reflect on situations where we find ourselves navigating the balance between competing interests, whether in our personal lives, professional contexts, or societal structures. Anaximander reminds us that our actions are interconnected with broader systems, and that striving for justice often means seeking equilibrium amidst chaos. By understanding that our ethical frameworks are historically rooted in these early philosophical explorations, we can better appreciate and apply them in our contemporary lives. The moral implications of Anaximander's philosophy continue to have resonance today, prompting fresh reflections on how we might live ethically in an interconnected world. His inquiries challenge us to contemplate our roles not only as individuals, but as part of a wider cosmos, where our choices matter and have rippling effects. In considering how to apply Anaximander's balance to our daily decisions, we may find deeper meanings in the pursuit of justice, not only for ourselves, but across the interconnected fabric of society. What does it mean for you to cultivate balance in your own life, and how might your actions contribute to a more harmonious existence for all? These questions encourage introspection, inviting each of us to engage with the timeless quest for moral understanding as we navigate the complexities inherent in our modern lives. Building on Anaximander's philosophical contributions, particularly regarding balance and justice, we can delve deeper into how his concepts engage with questions of ethics that reverberate throughout history and continue to challenge us today. Beyond merely setting the stage for later thinkers, Anaximander's ideas invite us to scrutinize the foundations of moral thought itself, encouraging a nuanced understanding of humanity's place within the cosmos. Anaximander posited that all things arise from the apeiron through a cyclical process of becoming and returning. This principle introduces a unique lens through which morality can be viewed, not merely as a code of conduct born from human interactions, but as an integral part of a cosmic order. Each being, according to Anaximander, is interconnected, forming a web of existence where actions ripple through time and space. This cosmic perspective leads to significant ethical implications regarding accountability and responsibility. To explore this further, let's consider Anaximander's idea of justice as balance, which underpins his moral philosophy. He asserts that justice is the natural state of the universe, where opposites must coexist in harmony. This notion of justice requires individuals not only to engage fairly and ethically in their interactions, but also to recognize the broader implications of their actions. For Anaximander, justice is less about rigid moral codes and more about maintaining a dynamic equilibrium. Imagine a corporate context where a company faces choices that affect its employees, customers, and the environment. According to Anaximander's principles, the company would need to weigh its decisions carefully, considering not just profit margins, but also the resultant balance between economic benefit and ethical responsibility. This balance asks the company to evaluate how its decisions are interconnected with societal well-being and environmental sustainability. In doing so, the company aligns itself with Anaximander's vision of ethical conduct as grounded in awareness of the broader consequences of its choices. Furthermore, when we apply Anaximander's perspective to personal relationships, the idea of balance can manifest in healthy communication and the mutual respect. In a world dominated by individualistic pursuits, remembering that our actions affect our loved ones can transform interactions. Anaximander encourages us to consider how our personal decisions, from financial choices to emotional expressions, impact those around us. This interconnectedness is pivotal in fostering friendships and family bonds built on mutual understanding and respect. The discussion of justice prompted by Anaximander leads us inevitably to modern legal frameworks, particularly in terms of how laws strive to reflect a form of balance. The justice system often attempts to apply a structured system of fairness, but it also illustrates complexities that challenge Anaximander's vision of natural balance. Investigate cases of socioeconomic inequality, where systemic issues create imbalances detrimental to marginalized communities. Here, Anaximander's emphasis on the cyclical nature of existence prompts critical reflection on how legal systems may fail to achieve true justice. Consider the case of environmental law, particularly as it pertains to large-scale industrial pollution. Advocates argue for a reevaluation of how laws protect both human and ecological interests. This reflects Anaximander's call for harmony in the relationship between humanity and the broader universe. To enact laws that do not solely penalize, but also aim for restorative justice, we need to embrace a more holistic approach that recognizes our duty toward maintaining balance between development and conservation, between present needs and future generations' rights. As we navigate these moral waters, we cannot overlook the criticisms of Anaximander's framework and how these criticisms spur further philosophical evolution. The ambiguity surrounding the nature of the apeiron has led some thinkers to argue that it lacks the specificity necessary to ground a moral system. If we accept an undefined infinite as the origin of all things, can we reliably derive clear ethical standards? This critique highlights a fundamental tension in Anaximander's philosophy: the tension between the vastness of the cosmic order and the specificity demanded by ethical dilemmas. Later figures, such as Socrates, would tackle these issues by advocating for a more interrogative approach to morality. Socrates emphasized the importance of defining concepts such as justice, goodness, and virtue, moving from abstract notions toward practical expressions that retained clarity and commitment. His Socratic method, which sought to unpack these terms through dialogue and reasoned inquiry, contrasts sharply with Anaximander's broader, less defined considerations. However, despite any critiques arising from this ambiguity, Anaximander's influence persists into the realm of modern ethical thought. Philosophers such as John Rawls and his theory of justice highlight a commitment to fairness and equality, echoing Anaximander's vision of balance. Rawls' work offers a structured way of thinking about justice as fairness within societal constructs, which resonates with Anaximander's belief in a natural order and equilibrium. The pursuit of justice in Rawls' framework, therefore, parallels the cosmic harmony Anaximander sought, evolving it into a more concrete and applicable form for contemporary society. Emerging technologies further complicate the moral landscape as they constantly challenge us to rethink ethical frameworks established by philosophers throughout history. Anaximander's teachings regarding interdependence suggest questions we ought to address in relation to artificial intelligence and automation. As we move towards an increasingly automated society, what does it mean to ensure balance within this new framework? The ethical implications extend to how AIs are designed and implemented. Are we incorporating values that resonate with Anaximander's call for justice? In light of this, consider how data privacy has become a modern ethical battleground. In the quest for progress, many organizations prioritize innovation over ethical considerations. Anaximander's philosophy invites us to question this prioritization, urging that ethical decisions acknowledge the balance between privacy and advancement. When large tech corporations allow user data to be exploited for profit without transparency and consent, they violate the ethical principles of balance, equity, and justice, captured in Anaximander's teachings. Furthermore, the choices we confront in technology's expanding field compel us to reflect on our own roles as ethical agents. The call for responsibility and mindfulness resonates throughout Anaximander's philosophy, suggesting that we too are accountable, not just for our actions, but for the ripple effects they send through the bounded web of existence. This reinforces the ethical necessity to critically engage with and validate how personal choices can align with a commitment to balance. As we draw these threads together, it becomes clear that Anaximander's ideas about justice and existence challenge us to think deeply about our moral compass. His philosophy prompts us to approach ethical dilemmas with an awareness of their context within the greater cosmic order. In a world that often feels chaotic and filled with competing interests, revisiting Anaximander inspires us to find the balance necessary for fairness, not only among individuals, but throughout our broader society and world. In concluding this exploration, it is crucial to reflect on how Anaximander's ethos permeates our own lives. Each decision we make, whether it relates to our personal relationships, professional conduct, or interactions with technology, carries a weight far beyond our immediate perceptions. It embodies an ethical responsibility to consider the interconnections that bind us to one another and to the world at large. At its core, Anaximander's philosophy compels us to ask, how do we strive for balance in a world often characterized by extremes? What does it mean to live justly, not only as individuals, but as components of a larger cosmic whole? The answers may not come easily, but through revisiting Anaximander's ideas, we uncover a philosophical legacy urging us to cultivate mindfulness, justice, and equilibrium in all facets of life. Engaging with these ancient thoughts fosters an opportunity for introspection, challenging us to examine whether our actions contribute positively to the moral fabric of our interdependent reality. In this way, the legacy of Anaximander not only survives, but also flourishes within our ongoing quest for ethical understanding in an ever-evolving world. Anaximander's thoughts provoke deeper examination, particularly regarding the descriptions and interpretations of the Apeiron, the infinite source of all that exists. While we noted that the Apeiron suggests a kind of boundless origin, it also opens up a philosophical inquiry into the nature of limits, the relationship between order and chaos, and consequently, the moral implications that these concepts carry. The question is how to maintain a moral compass in a world that thrives on possibilities and ambiguities, a domain that Anaximander himself acknowledged. To dive deeper into moral implications, we might consider Anaximander's views on human place within the cosmos. He posited that humans were part of a greater order, and this philosophy leads us to consider moral agency in a shared universe. Unlike many ethical systems that place humans at the center, Anaximander's perspective emanates a humbler understanding of humanity's role, reminding us that our actions resonate throughout an interconnected web of existence. This can be taken further when we think about the moral implications of our treatment of the environment, a theme that has acquired immense relevance in recent decades due to escalating climate change and ecological degradation. Taking into account Anaximander's perspective, let's examine current discussions regarding climate justice. This modern moral dilemma necessitates a balance akin to what Anaximander described, in that it requires us to consider our historical actions, current practices, and future implications on ecological systems. The discourse around climate change often brings to light the unequal burden faced by marginalized communities, who suffer the most from environmental degradation despite contributing the least to the problem. Anaximander's moral equilibrium suggests that ethical considerations must engender a sense of collective responsibility that transcends individual interests and echoes through generations. In practice, this has implications for policymaking. When considering how to address climate change, Anaximander's framework invites lawmakers to think of justice not merely in terms of immediate human welfare, but as part of a larger ecological balance. Environmental policies could reflect this by incorporating both human and non-human perspectives, as well as addressing inequalities exacerbated by climate impacts. For instance, in rethinking urban development, cities could aim for structures that promote green spaces, equitable resource distribution, and renewable energy solutions, highlighting how the consequences of today's actions extend far beyond existing generations or immediate community benefits. Moreover, just as Anaximander envisioned existence as a system of interdependent elements, this leads us to ponder the role of technology, particularly regarding ecological impacts. The accelerating pace of technological advancement brings challenges that Anaximander's philosophy allows us to reflect upon. Consider practices in agriculture where high-intensity farming methodologies are often pursued to maximize yields. While this may favor short-term economic gains, the long-term costs include soil depletion, biodiversity loss, and the displacement of small farmers. Here again, Anaximander's assertion of balance plays a critical role. To implement sustainable agriculture that respects the interconnectedness of life, farmers and policymakers ought to consider long-term ecological health rather than immediate profit. Collaborative initiatives like community-supported agriculture can be seen as practical applications of living in accordance with Anaximander's principles, promoting mutual benefits among producers and consumers while caring for the environment. Anaximander's holistic approach prompts us to reflect on our locus within these spheres, ultimately asking us to confront the moral questions of what it means to contribute to a sustainable and equitable world. The pursuit of harmony drives home the reality that a failure to embrace a sense of balance not only harms the environment, but also leads to social strife. In observing this interconnectedness, we become more attuned to the moral imperatives that challenge us, to seek out equitable solutions, to practice kindness, and to nurture relationships within our communities. This philosophy transcends boundaries, engaging with the moral fabric woven through different cultures and histories. As we further explore Anaximander's influence in shape and form, we confront the limitations and critiques his ideas have inspired. It's essential to acknowledge how the vagueness of the term apeiron leaves space for considerable interpretive flexibility, imperfections that some critics argue render his framework insufficient for practical moral guidance. This existential ambiguity raises concerns about practical ethics. If morality shifts according to the undefined nature of existence, how can we derive actionable insights? This issue begs consideration from thinkers like David Hume, who later examined moral sentiments as a foundation for ethics. Hume emphasized that human emotions, rather than abstract principles, fundamentally guide ethical behavior. By rooting ethics in the sphere of human experience, Hume provides a counterpoint to Anaximander's broad cosmic framing, suggesting that it is the immediate relational context of individuals that should inform our sense of right and wrong. Moreover, Immanuel Kant's deontological ethics challenges the ambiguities Anaximander presented by positioning moral imperatives as universal and applicable across contexts. Kant discusses ethics in the context of duty and responsibility, which stand in stark contrast to Anaximander's emphasis on a dynamic balance influenced by the limitless nature of existence. While Kant seeks clarity and structure, Anaximander's framework thrives on complexity and interdependence. This divergence illuminates an essential philosophical evolution in which later thinkers sought more definitive foundations upon which to build moral thought. Nonetheless, Anaximander's ideas can be woven into contemporary explorations of ethics, particularly in terms of how we grapple with moral dilemmas shaped by technology. Consider the modern debate over data privacy and surveillance in a digital era where our boundaries blur between personal and public realms. Anaximander's emphasis on balance can provide a pertinent lens through which to navigate these issues, as technology permeates our lives, creating an impression of limitless connectivity. Ethical frameworks rooted in equilibrium highlight the importance of securing individual rights alongside societal benefits. In practice, companies face the ethical dilemma of collecting and utilizing user data, especially when they prioritize profit over the individual rights of consumers. Anaximander's philosophy offers a critique of such practices, reminding us that ethical decision-making should reflect a dynamic interrelation that honors both privacy and communal knowledge. As more voices advocate for data protection regulations, there emerges a parallel to Anaximander's vision: the recognition that human progress must be balanced with ethical considerations concerning dignity and respect for all individuals involved in technological advancements. Looking to the future, this balance becomes essential in discussions around artificial intelligence and the moral implications involved. As AI systems proliferate across industries, from healthcare to finance, Anaximander's approach sparks important questions about automation's impact on labor, decision-making, and even autonomy. In a rapidly changing environment, how will we ensure that technology doesn't erode our collective moral standing? Today's conversations must extend to consider how inclusive these advancements are and who ultimately benefits. Ethical frameworks founded on balance compel stakeholders, from developers to policymakers, to emphasize fairness as an essential component of AI solutions. By integrating diverse perspectives, we can challenge biases inherent within technology, ensuring that outcomes serve both current needs and future generations, an essential hallmark of Anaximander's teachings. As we weave through these complex tapestries of ethics, Anaximander's legacy stands as a contemplative guide. His principles invite us to extend the discourse beyond prescriptive ethics, urging us to engage with the underlying relationships that connect our actions to broader moral inquiries. Just as his ideas echo through time and influence diverse thinkers who grappled with the definitions of justice, existence, and the fabric of reality, we too carry the torch as we navigate our moral landscapes in the face of contemporary challenges. This historical journey reveals an ongoing exploration, one that necessitates an active commitment to moral reflection and responsibility. Anaximander's philosophical prompts push us toward not just understanding ethics in a theoretical sense, but manifesting them through our actions within the world. The questions he poses bespeak of a timeless quest toward a more harmonious and just existence that continues to resonate with modern ethical inquiries, beckoning each of us to consider our responsibilities both as individuals and as part of a greater cosmos. In reflecting on how Anaximander's ideas of balance, justice, and interconnectedness influence our own lives, we unearth a practical commitment to approach each situation, no matter how minute, with an acute understanding of its ripple effects. As we engage with the complexities of our lives, whether in relationships, professional pursuits, or societal structures, Anaximander's ethos provides a foundation upon which we can build thoughtfully and effectively. Ultimately, this task of pursuit unveils how the ongoing interplay between our actions and the world can yield a force of harmony capable of inspiring ethical dimensions in our daily decisions. What remains is a question of conscientious engagement with the world around us. How do we continue the dialogue initiated by thinkers of the past? How do our choices usher in not just immediate benefits, but also contribute to a more balanced ethical future? By seeking answers to these questions and embracing the inheritance of Anaximander's philosophical legacy, we empower ourselves to navigate life's complexities with a keen sense of moral awareness that honors the connections we share in a vast and intricate universe. Each decision, then, becomes not merely an isolated act, but part of a larger narrative, a story of existence, interdependence, and a legacy of thought that continues to shape our understanding of morality and justice in the modern world.
Midnight rails under silver moon, dusty boots on a winding road. A shadow's the only friend I've known since she packed up and let me go. Empty whiskey bottle on the seat, her laugh still echoes in my bones. Saddle's heavy with memories. I ride alone where the wind still blows. Nowhere else else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Sunrise paints the horizon gold, but it don't warm a lonesome soul. Every town I pass feels half her size. Every trail's haunted by goodbye. I whisper prayers to open skies, hoping someday my heart'll find a brand new path beyond the pain, where broken hearts can heal in time. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be. To be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be.